60 Minutes with Angela starts right now.
The Islamic cleric Sheikh Ahmad Gumi says that he has pity for the next president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria because, quote, he will meet a great mess. In a metaphorical sense, he says, the nation is suffering from three main disabling diseases: leprosy, diabetes, and HIV/AIDS, all in one body, end of quote. My guest today is an editorial page editor at the Nation newspaper, editorial board member, and a columnist. Sanya Oni joins me on the program today to share, among other things, his insights on the 2023 presidential election, the state of insecurity, and everything else. I wanted us to start in Osun State, where we just conducted governorship elections. I read your column on that election. You talked about how the result wasn't a referendum of sorts on the performance of the APC. My question, I guess, is it a result? Is that result a kind of signal that perhaps it is the start of a rejection of the ruling party, the All Progressives Congress, APC, in the southwest geopolitical zone? And that's because a lot of people assume that it is a fait accompli, that the presidential candidate of the APC has no problem garnering the votes in the southwest geopolitical zone.
Thank you very much. The article you referenced actually is in the context, it's set in the context of what I would perceive, what I would describe as a gloating by elements, opposition elements in the state.
Yes.
Thinking that it was a kind of a referendum on the APC. And I was trying to situate it in the context of the subterranean forces that were at play prior to the elections.
Right.
Particularly the problem between the incumbent governor, Oyetola, and his predecessor, Rauf Aregbesola.
Yes.
Now, if you go a little back, way back, about 3+ years ago, when Oyetola was coming in.
Yes.
Oyetola came in against the interest. He was not the favorite of the then governor.
Yes. It wasn't his choice.
It wasn't his choice. And so there were a lot of forces at play at that time. But eventually, the man had his way. Of course, they came from the same political tendency. And the dominant forces within that tendency presented him, and he had his way.
Yes.
And so from that moment, right all through the entire 3.5 years plus in governance, the forces never relented. The dynamics were still at play all through the entire journey.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the immediate past governor was very, very controversial. For instance, some of his programs on school renaming, and some of the structuring that he did in the governance of the state created a lot of problems, both for the party. You will remember that even the victory of Oyetola was just a very narrow.
Yes.
So the man came in with a very narrow mandate at that point in time. And so you will expect that lessons will have been learned. Unfortunately, the governor, as soon as he came into the office, he thought he understood the mood of people in terms of being able to respond to their needs
Yes.
and their clamor, particularly in the areas that their voices were heard loudest. And then he responded to them. The governor, his predecessor,
governor,
now felt that he was more or less undermining him. And unfortunately, most of his appointees who assumed that automatically they will have a place in the new administration never had a place. So all of those forces now created a problem for him. So he was more or less fighting an in-house war when he needed to when all of them needed as a party to confront.
They needed to unite.
To confront a common enemy. Unlike the PDP, that had, of course, the PDP had its own internal problems, but it was not as sharp as that of. That's why you now have the TOP. They call themselves the Osun Progressives.
Yes.
They were very loud. They were working from within to sabotage their party. Unfortunately, of course, they will point out to the fact that it was the governor that brought it upon himself, but it was more or less an internal revolt within the elements in the party itself. So when I talked about a referendum, it's not so much about the 2023 elections. No. It's far-fetched.
A referendum on the situation in Osun State.
In other words, it's like saying, it was not even a referendum on the governor's performance. No. It was simply something else. That, okay, elements in the party, since you say you will not bring us on board, nobody will have it. So let's throw it.
Amadaru.
That is it. And that's exactly what happened.
Okay. So I want to understand something, and I'm hoping that the viewers too will understand.
Okay.
It seems to me then that in our brand of politics, no matter how good the chief executive of a state is, the governor, he still must play politics. Because this political thing is the reason that they say that Akinwumi Ambode didn't get a second term either. No matter how well you're performing, the infrastructure.
Let's go back to even Osho itself.
Yes.
You recall Baba Konde?
Yes.
He did well by any standard. Conserved funds. His projects were world class.
Yes.
Okay? And yet he lost elections. And what was the problem? He looked at the public service from top to bottom. He found the place overbloated. We had a school system. In some schools, for instance, we had schools where you didn't have teachers to teach mathematics, English. Yes. You had 6 in Arabic and Bible knowledge. And the man looked at the staff disposition. He said, no. If we must build a state for the future, we must redirect, we must actually restructure the school system. So he brought in a lot of innovations, signed a lot of teachers, and brought in the ones that he felt would better serve the needs of the state.
Yes.
And of course, you saw how he lost the election badly. So sometimes, it's just like Ekiti too.
Yes.
Where Suma's infrastructure, versus the real needs of the people. So whether you like it or not, it has come to play.
Yes.
You mentioned Ambode. Ambode's problem was that he had a party, and he thought, having been put there by the party, he thought he could go it alone, and he had to learn a bitter lesson that yes, you could go in there as a party man. If you fail to recognize and acknowledge your roots, there is a sure penalty to be paid. So that's exactly what happened. Okay, so Osun is certainly a tradition that started from Akonde. You remember very well. Akonde lost second term precisely because some elements in the state felt he didn't
carry them along.
No matter how well meaning his policies were, he lost that communication with the people. The same thing with Oyetola. Oyetola's problem is that he could not communicate his program. Even on television, you saw how he more or less like rambled through his programs. There's no doubt about the fact that the man did well. For the 4 years, he never owed a dime, unlike the previous governor that was owing salaries. He paid. He was able to restructure the debts of the state. He took the state from the fiscal cliffhanger to a much more robust, and yet he had to pay a very hefty price in terms of not getting elected because of internal party dynamics.
Okay. So your description of Aregbesola, the former governor, you said he's controversial, sometimes divisive predecessor. You describe his work as outlandish policies that pitted government against the people. I'm sure that in the aftermath of the Osun elections, the party especially will be appreciating the value of the former governor Aregbesola today. Perhaps if there was no acrimony between Aregbesola and Oyetola, the story today would be different.
I don't know about the party appreciating him for anything. He ran his course in 4 years. The people of the states are the best judge of whether or not he performed.
Yes.
But if that election that brought in Oyetola was any referendum on his performance,
it was bad.
It was bad. 4 years, yes, Aregbesola is an activist governor. Give it to him. He's a grassroots mobilizer.
Yes.
But as a performer in office, it's a completely different kettle of fish. For instance, yes, he has some very brilliant ideas, but sometimes he gets carried away, as they will say in Yoruba, with the noise of the market.
Yes.
And look at the schools program, the margin of the schools, all these mega schools.
School uniforms.
Mega schools in a state like Osun. Go there now. Some of those schools are under-occupied. In fact, the occupancy ratios, most of those schools are probably about 20 to 30%. You build mega schools. There are some schools.
No students.
Yes, they didn't have enough students. Because today you have so many schools around you, private schools in the neighborhood, and then you went to and built one mega school somewhere and expect students to trek to go there to those mega schools. Where are the students anymore? Okay?
Yeah.
That's why the governor, when this new governor came in, those are part of the problems. Because he saw that some of the schools, even though it was that government,
Yes.
he probably,
It didn't make, it was, they were not viable.
of course, that's the reality today. Go to those schools, you find that the schools are not well utilized because they were not well planned. Because in planning those schools, you ought to have taken into consideration the needs of the people rather than impose your own vision of governance on them.
Yes. So Adeleke of the PDP won 17 of 30 local government areas. In your opinion, in Osun State, and after that election, who are the winners and who are the losers?
Let's be very clear.
Yes.
The people of Osun are the clear winners. First, their voices were heard. Okay? They needed to effect a change the way they wanted to. You may disagree with their choice.
Yes.
They were the clear winners.
They got who they wanted.
They got who they wanted.
Yes.
Secondly, INEC went above the board. Before now, you could accuse INEC of mediocrity in terms of logistics.
Yes.
They overcame. The organization was, if you don't say it's world class, at least it's above average.
Yes.
Okay, so overall, you see that it was well done. Now, you talk about losers. Obviously, it's the APC as a party that's the loser. Today, the party is riven from top to bottom. Okay? They are still trying to find their feet. And this acrimony, whether you like it or not, will continue because the rage over who controls the structure of the party will continue. It's not going to stop. It's not going to stop because the election is over.
Will it affect the 2023 election, the results for APC?
I see them. I see most of those things. They will paper over the cracks, but it will continue because ultimately, the control of the party structure will still be a major factor. Don't forget, the governor is still in office.
Yes.
And he still controls the structure. And until another election comes to dislodge the present structure, he will remain in charge. And so, that battle will continue.
That brings us now to the question of the presidential election. In my introduction, I quoted the Islamic cleric, Sheikh Ahmad Gumi. He says he pities the next president who will meet a great mess. And in a metaphorical sense, the nation is suffering from 3 main disabling diseases: leprosy, diabetes, HIV, AIDS, all in one body. Now, why do you think, with all these problems, anyone wants to be president?
Honestly, there are moments I wonder, in my sober moments, why anybody want to take on the task of governing a place called Nigeria with all these problems.
Yes.
Today, the country is so badly divided, you don't even know where to begin to put the pieces together. And that's a tragic reality. Okay? All the others are just more or less like symptoms of a bigger problem of disunity. All over the world, there's something called elite consensus. That's the minimum within the elites will consider as settled questions.
Yes.
There are no such in Nigeria. On virtually every issue of the day,
nothing is settled.
Nothing is settled. And that's one. That's a big problem. He spoke about HIV. I thought that typology was particularly instructive.
Yes.
These are debilitating diseases. Look at the economy. 2 days ago, I think it was only yesterday I was reading the fact that our reserves it's gone down to, it's plumbed to 15 billion. Probably 2-3 months cover of imports. That is crisis. Secondly, your debt service charge is in fact has exceeded your revenue. That is trouble with capital letter T. You have a war on terror to fight. For every bullet that gets fired by the soldier,
yes,
you know the cost of a bullet, and it's denominated in dollars. That's trouble. So you look at the totality of the problem, and you see, ask you.
Yes.
Now, from what I read, the last I heard was that they've managed to win a concession of 100% increase in their staff salaries. Apart from the other things they're asking for,
yes,
if you put them together, that's also a draw on the finances, on the treasury. Where is this money going to come from? That's trouble. Oil, our mainstay. Today, we can't even meet OPEC quota. Ordinarily, our budget in few years back,
yes,
was predicated on 2.2 million barrels production per day.
Yes.
Now, OPEC brought it down to 1.8. In fact, at a point, OPEC brought it down to 1.5. Today, we are struggling to produce 1.3. We can't even meet OPEC quota, not to talk of exceeding it to make revenue. That's why the whole world is enjoying this boom. We are not enjoying boom. And then there are battles, fuel subsidy, for which Nigeria is going to pay this year alone 6-point-something trillion naira just for going to buy fuel. So if you put all of these things together, the question you ask yourself is it really worth the trouble?
Anyone coming now?
Coming to go
okay, so let me be the devil's advocate here.
Yes.
All these problems you've listed,
yes,
are they not symptomatic of what is happening all over the world? Isn't this high cost of energy, high cost of fuel,
yes,
and availability, isn't it global?
Yes and no. Some are global. For instance, if you are talking about the high price of crude,
yes,
that's global. Okay? Nigeria is a crude producer. So we should ordinarily benefit from it. So we should be talking about benefiting.
Yes.
Okay? But the other one, the fact that we are now importing fuel, there's something global in that. We are not fated to import fuel because we have in this country, once upon a time in this country, we refined our crude for our uses. Today we are not. And that's where, and unfortunately, now just imagine if we had additional indigenous refining capacity, the price could go up. You could remove the subsidy, and yet the economy will face less shock than we are facing right now because you will not need to use your forex. Today, we spend almost like 35 to 40% of our entire forex earnings to import fuel. That is the crisis. That is the heart of our crisis today. So whether you produce or not, the fact of the matter is that today, whatever you make from your crude export, you have to use it to bring in fuel. Otherwise, you see people on the streets
queuing
or doing worse, either rioting, because they can't get fuel. So we are in a real problem. In fact, it's a big problem. So that's why sometimes when I look at it, and unfortunately, the tax base.
Yes.
Today, we have one of the lowest tax to GDP ratios in the world at 6-point-something%, not up to 7. Ghana next door is about 14%. South Africa is about 34%. In other words, we are not basically a tax-paying country. And how do you pay tax when the companies are not producing? When companies are trying to cut on capacity, where would the tax revenue come from? So it's a vicious spiral.
Cycle.
Because our leaders over the course, they stopped thinking years ago. And that's where we found ourselves where we are today. So it's worse than what Gumi described.
Join us again after the break. All right, welcome back. You've succeeded in dampening my spirits, Mr. Oni, but listening to all the challenges that you've listed, it looks to me like a win for the APC in 2023 is a hard sell. So much so that even the former national chairman of the APC is now trying to distance the former national chairman, Adams Oshiomhole, is trying to distance the presidential candidate, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, from the Buhari administration. Or otherwise, what does he mean by Tinubu is not part of Buhari's regime, don't blame him. If no one is, if anyone isn't a part of the APC regime, we can't say it isn't Bola Ahmed Tinubu. In the last 7 years, we've seen him walk into the villa, have meetings with the president. We all assume he's going there to give them little hints, directing them in this way, the benefit of the ideas he has that he's trying to sell to us now. We've always thought that he was giving those ideas to the president.
Okay, let me address it this way.
Yes.
One, I do not belong to APC. So I'm not in a position to but this much I can tell you.
Yes.
The expectation of any Nigerian is that if a party does well, the candidate is ought to benefit from it.
Yes.
Okay? So if APC was doing very well today, obviously people will be singing the praises of APC to high heavens.
Yes.
When Jonathan wasn't doing very well, Nigerians said, no, this PDP, we are done with them.
Yes.
Having said that, it's also a fact that the last 7.5 years of Buhari has been one of insularity. In terms of, I don't think we've ever had a government that was so insular. They are so unreceptive to ideas. Look, you remember the first time, even the wife had to cry out that this regime, people who worked to bring this regime to power, they are not the ones pulling the strings. It was other people. Okay?
Yes.
Asiwaju Tinubu's wife at a point said, they trashed my husband. It's public record. It was a measure of frustration with the administration. But you do not expect party men to carry placards
and say publicly,
our government is not doing very well. There is a limit. Don't forget, presidential power is a very extensive power. Whether you like it or not, they can crush anybody that they want to, because it's such awesome power of the presidency.
Yes.
So it's like seeing a trailer coming and you say you won't step aside. I'm not saying that's what exactly Tinubu did, but give it to him. I believe that he probably will have one or two reasons to engage one or two people. But in terms of policies, I don't think he could have done much, particularly with the people that the president eventually surrounded himself with. So if the man says, I want to now run on my own steam,
yes,
my own is, let's listen to the man first before you begin to judge him. Because it's only after you have listened to him. Look at all the others too. Look at what they are offering. Okay? In any case, thank God today, we have reached the point Nigeria can begin now to dissect. Yes. Each time I engage people, young people, old, I always tell them, can we reason? Can we reason together and look at these candidates one after the other, so that we can begin to now take an informed position, not to jump into the air and say, hey, you know, like children now.
Yes.
A lot of movements are all over the place. And I ask, have you thought about the fact that it's not just about electing a president, but governing a country? Okay? Because those are the hard questions that you must have to answer. So, to summarize, I do not think it will be fair to pin all the blames of this government on I think Asiwaju, as the flag bearer, deserves to be heard by Nigerians, and let Nigerians pick up their mind if his ideas actually is at sync with their expectation of what we desire. You know, that's my own position.
Okay, on that. What do you then make of the ticket, the candidate of the PDP, the northern ticket? As you know, the APC's ticket is a southern ticket.
Okay.
The PDP have decided to stay with the northern ticket. They're not aligning themselves with the zoning done by the ruling party, which will effectively mean 16 unbroken years. If Atiku wins, that will be 16 unbroken years of a northern president.
Not just a northern president, a Fulani president. Of Fulani presidency. Okay, the same way. Again, I say, let's remove sentiments.
Yes.
Let's look at what the man is bringing to the table. The country is really in some crisis.
Yes.
Let's look at what the message that he has. Already, we've been presented with a ticket.
Yes.
Faith accomplished, as they say. So, what is he going to bring on the table? You look at him very well. What is he saying? What are his messaging? And then you look at whether or not he has the kind of ideas that can drive this country forward. Those are the areas I look at.
Yes.
The same way people say Muslim ticket, Northern Kidney, all those issues are as controversial as we can imagine.
Yes.
But beyond all of those, I rather look at the problems that this country has and then the kind of solutions that we expect to take us out of the problems. And who is bringing that kind of ideas that will galvanize us in that direction. Those are the areas I think, for me as an individual, those are the areas that I would rather engage in, not all these frivolities of religion or whatever.
What about the fears expressed by Christians that, you know, even with a pastor as the vice president today, we still have issues of Christians feeling persecuted? We've seen blasphemy, killings as a result of blasphemy. We didn't have these incidents in 1993. So comparing a Muslim ticket of 1993 to today, you know, doesn't hold water for a lot of people.
And I will reduce it. Everything to me is more about the failure of governance than any particular religious or Islamist agenda.
Yes.
If an institution of government is failing to work properly, let's fix decisions and make them to work. Today, a lot of people are suspicious of each other.
Yes.
You see people in your neighborhoods, you wonder where are they coming from?
Who are they?
Who are they? This is simple. Go to the north, a lot of young people, they can't go to farms. They are rushing down. They are hearing that Lagos is safe. They are coming down. So if you address the root of the problem, you know, insecurity in the north, rather than the kid gloves, which Buhari is treating them, then you might as well you begin to ask them to go back to go and till the land in the north. Issues of desertification in the northeast
has driven them away from them.
So I used to go to Baga in those good old days to buy fish. Now you can't fish anymore because the place is dried up. So those are the areas. So when there's a failure at the level of governance, people begin to eat themselves raw. Look for ethnicity, religion, and where will it end? It becomes a way of escape from the harsh realities.
Yes.
Okay.
I've heard people from the, you know, people supporting Bola Ahmed Tinubu saying that they're criticizing the PDP for sticking to a formula that would effectively see a northern president for 16 years. And I keep saying to them, well, the APC too is moving ahead with a formula that will effectively see a Muslim president for 16 years.
You see, that's the hypocrisy on both sides.
Yes.
You can see the hypocrisy on both sides.
Yes.
The PDP says we are settling for a candidate that can help us win the presidency.
Yes.
And people are saying, no, there are candidates in the south who can also win the presidency for you. He said, no, let's throw it open because we need this person.
We need to win.
We need to win. Tambuwal and others, they were jumping all over the place.
Yes.
We can't see somebody from the south. Anyway, they went to the slot first. Eventually, in other than one. Now, Tinubu now emerged in APC.
Yes.
Then the noise went up. It must be a Christian northerner.
Yes.
And the man is saying, look, it has nothing to do with you. You have picked your own. Leave us to pick our own.
Yes.
All that we are interested in, we are a political party, we are interested in winning. Okay. So the same argument, you see, that PDP advanced for settling on their own candidate is the same argument. The only thing that they did was, okay, let's now settle for a Christian to balance the ticket.
Yes.
But the same argument holds true. Because the man too is saying, I have looked across the entire, every political party does its own, what I call calculus.
Yes.
Electoral calculus. Today, a man from Southwest got a ticket. Where are those northern figures that can actually galvanize votes in the north? Where are they? Dogara? That can, outside of his DAS in Bauchi. He can't even win the Senate seat. I doubt if he can win the Senate seat. And that's the truth.
What about Babachir Lawal?
Babachir Lawal that cannot win it. Go and check the performance. He couldn't even win he couldn't win APC for his local government. And now he wants to go for so the man says, let's look for people who have something to bring to the ticket, who has values to add to the ticket. Would that not be legitimate? That would be legitimate now.
Yes.
Somebody who has something to bring to the ticket.
What about the argument that Babachir Lawal, Dogara, they would have been the beacon for the Christians in the north.
Unfortunately, you are asking Asiwaju to use his ticket to go and fight an imaginary war on behalf of the northern Christians who feel oppressed. Fight your war and leave the party politics out of it. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They are simply assuming that the man who wants to win an election will use his ticket to fight an imaginary war. The man says, no. We are about winning an election and running a country. Issues of equity will come in. There are offices to be shared. You can talk about equity at every level. In any case.
After the election is won.
Oh, sure. It's not about one particular office. You know, Nigerians, we dissipate so much energy on inanities.
On inanities. All right. So I'm taking you now to issues currently happening in our country today. Luxury cars. I mean, I thought they were cars, but I'm understanding now that they're luxury SUVs that the federal government is giving to the government of Niger Republic. Cost of 1.4 billion naira. And the finance minister, Zainab Ahmed, said, based on the president's assessment and consequent approval. Now, many Nigerians are saying, in spite of us looking like we're broke or not having enough revenue ab initio to do all the things that we want to do, we still have money to give other countries.
I like the sentiment. But Nigeria is a big country. And such things, whether you like it or not, they are bound to happen. We live in an interconnected world. And whether we like it or not, Nigeria is a very strong member of the ECOWAS. And we have so many platforms of cooperation with the Niger Republic.
Yes.
We are all together in the multinational joint task force. Their army, they are fighting, their soldiers are fighting alongside our soldiers in the war on terror. And so many issues of bilateral interests that sometimes Big Brother, when Obasanjo was in office too,
we did it.
We did it for Benin Republic, did it for other places. Each time they call on us for help, it's really nothing new.
Yes.
My own problem is the optics, particularly at this time. Okay, you can say, okay, those kind of things ought not to have been done about this time, but ultimately, in terms of the general idea, I don't think it's something that is as satanic as people are painting it to be. I think it's something else to describe.
Are these normal things that happen in governance?
Yeah, just normal things. They are bilateral things that the presidency. But the more you elect a president, he has some discretions to do some things.
Yes,
that's leadership.
Okay, I was looking at the example, for instance, of a country like America. They still have their problems, yet they give aid.
They do. America, we're talking about their debts. Yes. And yet, they still, you see them giving out ships to Nigeria, giving out all manners of logistical things in support of our wars. So, it's really nothing new.
Yes.
And 1 billion.
1.4 billion.
Billion in Nigeria. That's not much, really. For a country of the size of Nigeria. No, that's not. It's not the reason we are poor.
Join us again after the break. Welcome back. Now, concluding moments, Mr. Oni. On Monday, the 1st of August, 2022, the former National Secretary of the APC, Kawu Baraje, at his event where he recently turned 70 years old, said, APC brought in Fulani militia from Mali, Chad, Niger, Senegal, and Sierra Leone to win in the 2015 election. You know, he was speaking as if he was against it as well in that interview. And he says, the insecurity we see around is not from the Nigerian Fulani, and that the security agencies have not been open about the terrorism problems. Now, we know that former President Goodluck Jonathan had said at one point he knew the members of Boko Haram in his government. Even this administration too has alluded to the fact that the members of the people carrying out all these terrorist acts are known to government. Why have no names still yet been mentioned? Is it because they are big men, as we call them here in Nigeria?
Okay, let me just address the issue of Baraje.
Yes.
Baraje was in APC. Why is he saying after? Why did he choose to say it after he left the APC? So look at that political part of the political angle.
Yes.
But the fact of the matter is that this is a country where all manners of things happen. I will believe that. Take the politics out. I will expect that the security agencies will take him for questioning to come and substantiate his, to help them.
Yes.
Because if it's actually true,
if he's saying it categorically,
unfortunately, our security agents tend to see themselves more in terms of tend to see their roles in terms of regime protection as against national
security protection.
National security protection.
Yes.
Otherwise, of course, that's a ready material now. Who brought them in? Where are they brought from? Where are they brought from? And where are they now?
Yes.
And then from there you can begin to. So, but again, I have, over the course of years, learned not to dwell too much on politicians when they make the statements. All manners of statements get made. Oh,
because everything has context. That BBC documentary, where do you stand? Do you think it glamorized terrorism? Do you think it was irresponsible reporting, as my friend Kadaria Ahmed said?
You see, I think I listened to Kadaria Ahmed.
Yes.
I think she got too a bit over. She got a bit over emotional. One, because Zamfara home state is involved.
Yes.
But what did the media do? That has not been reported before now. Or sorry, what did Daily Trust and BBC? What did they do that before now had not been done? Gumi went as far as into the forest,
negotiating
to meet with these people, to even negotiate. He talked to them. Photographs were taken with those guys with the full complement of arms, and the security agencies didn't question him.
And he came back to town, went
Governor Masari himself,
that's the Katsina State governor,
the first amnesty he proposed, he brought them out from the bush, from the forest, gave them amnesty before they reneged. And now the man was forced to not say, I will never talk to them again. They are not people of honor. The same thing with Governor Matawale. So, these people have been meeting the hierarchs of terrorists, the kingpins of this terror kingdom.
Yeah.
So the difference now is that Daily Trust and BBC now carry the camera
to go and film them.
To go and they film them and then put the thing together, edited and put them together and put them on the. So what is the difference between what the other ones didn't do their own systematic format?
Yes.
These ones now just help us to make a bit of meaning, and put proper context to it, and the government is jumping up and down. I think people in government should go and sit down. For once, they should respect Nigerians. I think the problem is that we give too much credit to these people in government. We give to their. I don't want to use the word, Otherwise, I don't see now they are finding them. Find it for what? For doing a job. What new thing did Daily Trust bring out that Nigerians are not already familiar with? Is it the 2G man that Nigerians don't know his name? It's all on our papers. The man that was turbaned, that was brought from the forest to come and turban, and AIG was there on the day of his turbaning, and AIG.
This is a man that's supposed to be wanted.
The man in Katsina, the next door state, had actually put a bounty of 5 million on his head.
And they're turbaning him.
And then he came from the forest. The governor said, let's turban the
emir
of Yan, whatever the name, brought him out because the man, his people came to him and said, look, our people can't go to farm unless you make peace with this man. The state government was too far away. They couldn't reach the state governor. The man said, please, if this is what we guarantee my people peace. So there's nothing new that the Daily Trust and BBC have done.
Was it a minus that the BBC didn't get the federal government's input into that documentary?
Since when has it become the duty of BBC to go after and be asking for government input into its programs?
Yes.
I don't think it's fair of government to expect that BBC. Already the facts are there in the open place.
Yes.
It's the government that is failing to do its own duty. El-Rufai once said it. He said, look, these people, we even listen to their conversations in the forest. He said, we have the mechanism to track We know where they are. El-Rufai is a governor in Nigeria. Has any of the security agencies or their leadership go to him to ask, Oga, what you said is a lie?
Okay, so Mr. Oni, tell me this.
Yes.
What then is the problem with this insecurity? Is it that these people are just too big to be touched by government? If a governor, a sitting governor is saying, we know them, we listen to their conversations.
You want the answer, straight and forward answer?
Yes.
Leadership. That's one word. It's a one word answer, leadership. Sometimes you get the feeling that our leaders are compromised. Otherwise, now I'm hearing that Buhari said they should go all the way now.
Yeah.
Maybe they should go all the way. Who's impressed? Does that impress you?
No.
A commander-in-chief that cannot chiefly command well. Let me use that word
Yes.
that our brother Ghana. A commander-in-chief, your soldiers are being wasted. Look at this number of soldiers that have been wasted. The other day, brigade of guys were taken down. Ordinarily, soldiers don't lose their men that cheap.
Yes.
They go all the way in counter-offensive. But what are we saying in Nigeria? Human rights, they are the ones that we won't look for excuse to stop the soldiers, to stop our fighting men, to go after the bandits. It's leadership. It's leadership. You remember once upon a time, you'll be in a Tajo show,
Yes.
park your car. The next thing you look for the car is in Cotonou. I'm sure you remember that time.
Yes.
They went. Remember that woman, Shodipo, that was almost gone down somewhere in. One day, I was just say, first, he closed the border with Cotonou. Nigerian government sent for the IG of
Cotonou.
They escalated the problem. Since that time, when last do here in Nigerian car was stolen and taken to Cotonou, Obas just stopped it when he was in office. Because he found it annoying that somebody will steal a car here. Since that time, trans-border banditry stopped. Check. So, if we put leaders, if we invest you with the cloak of leadership,
Yes.
you have to exercise that authority
Or move aside.
Abi?
So do you agree with the Senate who calling for the impeachment of the president?
It's not about me agreeing with them.
Yes.
We elected them to do a job. If they can do the job we elected them to do, what should they do? They should also
Leave.
Because today, the situation has become an embarrassing one. Imagine terrorists, ragtag army of terrorists, saying they are going to kidnap a president of a country like Nigeria. A country whose soldiers distinguished themselves in Burma right from the First World War, fought in Liberian War, fought in Congo. Look at the history, the trajectory of Nigerian military. That's a proud institution. Now being reduced to some kind of jelly because of some stupid terrorists. Now they are even saying, the next target, we want to pick your commander-in-chief.
And no heads have rolled.
If I say we are going to pick one governor and pick your commander-in-chief.
And they chose El-Rufai.
Yes, so that you know how serious we mean business and how much we are in charge. We are not only in charge, we are in control. And then somebody is sitting there in his office thinking that he's exercising the authority of that office. I feel ashamed as a Nigerian. I think I think I wrote it in my column. I said, that's the ultimate humiliation for me as a Nigerian. And I feel sorry for those are young men who are giving their all to preserve this country. It appears we are not appreciating their labor. And that's another pain that I feel.
This is very sad. Well, inaugurating the Abia State Reconciliation Committee, the national chairman of the party, Abdullahi Adamu, says APC will not be satisfied with just 25% of votes cast across the country. You know, that's what the Constitution prescribes.
Yeah.
They say they must try to win every state.
It's legitimate. That's legitimate. It's like you send a child to school.
Yes.
You pay the school fees. Say, okay, go and have A1. It doesn't mean that the child will not come back with an F9 in some subjects.
Yes.
So the man can dream dreams. He's an old man. Let him dream dreams.
And what is your assessment of the Labour Party and its candidate, Peter Obi?
You are taking me to a very controversial territory. Because we have
especially you have an issue ongoing right now.
You see, we have a crowd out there.
Yes.
Who are so consumed in their rage, in their, I would say, self-righteous rage.
Yes.
But again, I always say it. If that rage is not well channeled, it will lead to frustration. It will end up in frustration. Before now, you say, Labour Party does not have a structure. I didn't say that.
Yes.
Say, we people are the structure.
The people are the structure.
And I answer. Let's look at the candidate, Peter Obi, as a person.
Yes.
Fine gentleman. Fine debater. He has a knowledge of all the issues. But it takes more than eloquence to run a country like as big as Nigeria. You must have the network. You must have the port. Look, just imagine, just sit down and picture a Peter Obi, imagine a president. Elected with a popular mandate to govern.
Yes.
Without
no senator?
No senator, no parliamentary majority, nothing. He will just go
no state
floating there. He will be
sitting duck. That's what I think too.
Those are the things I worry about people about. So they will be disappointed. People. That's why I say a lot of these people will be disappointed. Because if wishes were horses, beggars will ride. I see the enthusiasm of young people.
Yes, it's a good thing.
It's a good thing. One, it challenges us. Okay? Those of our generations that are slightly older than them, challenges us to know that we have taken these children, this generation, we've taken them for granted for far too long.
Yes.
And it's about time we begin to listen more to them.
Yes.
But that energy needs to be properly channeled into a movement. Macron did not run solo.
And he did not run within a year.
He didn't run within a year. There was a systemic build-up. And come to think of it, in what way this will be a particularly different generation from the people who are there? He was a governor for 8 years. Okay. What vision of government did he espouse when he was in Anambra? That was different, fundamentally different from what the average. Yeah. I didn't see any. I visited him in Oka. I was there. I reported on that Oka. Okay. The man can talk fine grammar. How he's very frugal. Nigeria's problem requires more than frugality. Nigeria does not need a saint to run the issue. What we need is somebody who have profound understanding of all these issues. Look, institution builders, men who will build institutions and allow those institutions to work, empower these institutions to work. Those are the kind of things that we need. Not all this debate about the man. He wears a shoe. In fact, a shoe is 2,000 naira. His wristwatch is 9,000 naira. Go and buy 1 million naira worth of which.
But do the work.
It doesn't really bother me. Corruption. Which country is more corrupt than America?
Or the UK for that matter.
UK. Okay. But the institutions work. The difference between America and Nigeria is that institutions there work.
Yes.
So we need leaders who can think through, who can create institutions and allow those institutions, empower them to work.
Talking about institutions reminds me of former American President Obama saying that on paper Nigeria had the greatest institutions, if only they would be allowed to work.
But that's the truth.
Yes.
That's the truth. That's why somebody will break the law. He will drive BRT. I'm going to call the governor. I mean,
yes.
It tells you the mindset of the ordinary Nigerian. And the same person will sit and put politicians to task and say, you people, and talk down for politicians. Yes. But in his own little corner, he will not even allow the students to work. He will use that small space that he has to intimidate the players and the actors in their own realm. That's the problem with Nigeria.
It's never corruption when we're benefiting from it.
No. It's the other person that's always wrong. So it's always the other person. And that's the tragedy of our lives.
That brings me then to the question. You are an editorial page editor at The Nation newspaper. You're a member of the editorial board. You're a columnist. I've known you for years at The Nation newspaper. We've worked together for many years. Obviously, you're a Tinubu man, aren't you?
Let me answer this way.
Yes.
If you are looking for my presidential candidate,
yes,
I'm looking for an institution builder. Somebody who can create institutions and make them to work. I look at each of the candidates.
Yes.
I say, this journey is not about playing basketball to know who has the better stamina. I'm looking at somebody who has a grasp of the kind of things that we require to get this country on its feet.
Yes.
How do you develop the middle class? Because the middle class today, they have gone into extinction.
Dead.
I have a young son. He just got a job in the public service. He brought in a letter. I sat him down, we're sharing the letter. How much does this salary translate to? He came to 50,000 naira in a month, level 8. Okay? How is this young man going to be able to take a house, rent a house,
marry a wife,
marry, forget that one, buy mattress, buy cooking pot, buy all those kind of things?
On 50,000.
If me as a father, if I don't subsidize him on that salary, elsewhere, there are credit institutions created that exist independent of him that he can take advantage of.
Yes.
His students, undergraduates, can walk into a credit scheme and take credit to help himself out of college to graduate. Those are the kind of things enduring institutions, because it's when you create such institutions that you actually create wealth down the line.
Yes.
Those are the kind of things I expect to see in the person that's coming. Let's debate the issues. Not somebody whose story is that I sold all the national institutions while I was in vice president. Okay?
Yes.
I sold them. No, they're not working.
Government has no business being in business.
You sold them. What do you replace them with?
Yes.
And what regulatory policy do you put in place to ensure that those the inheritance of those legacies actually make them to work in accordance with the expectation to deliver the critical services that are meant to deliver in the first place? Then you say you save money. I ask, our problem is it about saving money or actually bold ideas, bold original ideas that address the basis of our existence as a nation?
Yes.
Somebody who has the breath to actually, because you must not govern with a mandate.
Yes.
Who has the reach in every corner of Nigeria? Who is not closeted into one, who is not boxed into a corner? Those are the kind of things I'm looking for in an already fractured country.
Yes.
So, by the time you put all of those things together, I now begin to do my own checklist. I have an idea of who, of all the pretenders,
yes,
fit into that, because their record in the public space is well known to me. You can shout from now to tomorrow and begin to bring up other indices.
Yes.
I ask, the person who has no sin, let him be the first to cast the first stone. Nigeria, we are not looking for Pope to run this country. What we need today are leaders who can actually help Nigeria to stand on its feet again, to realize its dream as a nation.
Yeah.
That's my own. Not all this vain talk about somebody, excitable crowd. No. Because our generation, look at today. Actually, all our industries are collapsing. We must get them to work. You see, to create the jobs, to create the taxable base to run a modern economy. Honestly, between me and you, I'm sure you have an idea of who best approximates all of this. And certainly not the kind of noise people are making in the streets. Yes. Certainly not.
Yes. Let's talk about the baggage that some people think the APC candidate has. You think any of that baggage, no record of primary school, secondary school, his health, people say he's poorly. I'm not sure, I have any proof of that.
See, we can talk from now to tomorrow about baggage. If you govern Lagos for 1 week,
yes,
with the number of media houses in Lagos, when they train the camera light on you, that even the baggage that you yourself don't know exists, they'll bring it out. Okay? That's the truth. There are some governors in Nigeria today, if you meet them in the streets of Marina, or you meet them in the supermarket, you won't even know who they are. Because where they operate from is so distant from the usual leg light.
Yes.
So, what is baggage there? There is nobody. I have a younger brother. He will tell me. He said there is nobody that they check the backside that you won't see small shit there.
Yes.
So, Let the moral policemen, they can talk all they do. I'm not defending anybody.
Yes.
I'm not. But I'm just saying that Nigeria will dwell too much in all those things, those inanities. The man you say has a baggage. Okay, fine. He's been governor for 8 years. Before then, he was senator. Okay?
Yes.
And those baggage were there. And in spite of that,
He
didn't
became
hobble him from performing his. Secondly, when this country was going to be taken to the dogs by the military,
Yes.
we know people who stood,
Who stepped up?
and fought to ensure that we can enjoy this democracy today. We know them. Okay?
Yes.
So, even if you see a sick man, being sick, does it make you closer to death than the strong man? I have seen young 40-year-olds play basketball and collapse in court.
Drop dead.
Drop dead. Okay? You say Buhari spent so and so and so and so a year. That's the reason Buhari didn't perform. It's not because he was ill. It's because the man didn't have the ideas to run with in the first place. That's the reason.
Yes.
In the last, since he started the second term, it's not, I don't think he's visited us before, probably once or so. Which policy has he enunciated or given to his minister to run with that we've not seen? None. So the reason is not health. And in any case, we don't have a presidential, one-man presidential run. It's a collegiate system. You have a big vision, you assemble your team, and then you keep them running. We know who best can bring talents and get them to work, to achieve, and who will not just fold his hands because he doesn't have the idea of what measurable targets are.
Yes.
Those are the kind of things that Nigerians should worry about, not all this noise about the place, because the country is in trouble.
Thank you very much, Mr. Oni, for spending an hour with me today. It's been very
pleasure.
interesting.
My pleasure.
And thank you for watching. I'm Angela Ajetunmobi.